Hi, Robbie Susan Chandler here from RobbieSusanCardsandCrafts.com. Today I thought I'd start out by showing my face instead of just my hands. I want to introduce to you my 3-card series of Father's Day cards. And I'll show you the one we're going to make today. It's this one. And when you open it up, I call it a diorama card. When you open it, it's got this beautiful scene inside. And we'll be making this one from start to finish. And then another card 2 in this series is this cute little fishing vest, and it opens up. It says Happy Father's Day, and I'll be making this one another day. And then the third one in the series is the one with the trusty tools, and it looks like this on the front. And I actually made this one a birthday card, but see how the tools stand up on the inside, and you could just stamp Happy Father's Day or whatever you want in it. This is the front. So these are the other two in the series that we'll be making, and this is the one we'll be making today. So let's get to it. Okay, here we go. Let's get started on this card. We'll work on the base first, and then we'll go to the inside. So let's start out with our basic pieces. Put this out of the way for now. Okay, one of the pieces is Early Espresso, and it's 8 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. So it's this piece here. And then you'll need another piece of Early Espresso, and it's 5.5 by 8.5, and you're going to score it at 3 3/8, 4 1/4, and 8. So when you have it on your scoring, simply score base, it would be 3 3/4. And then a 1/2 inch over 4 1/4, and then this is really 1/2 inch from this end, but it would be 8 inches because this is 8.5. And then you're just going to fold all these, and that's something, I mean, you bring my bone folder, but that's okay. You're just going to fold all these over and burnish them, and this will be the inside piece of your card. All right, and then on the inside, this piece is 5.5 by 3 3/4. Get this out of the way, and it is from this pack of paper called Country Woods. Get the glare off. There we go, Country Woods. And I used this sheet right here. There's a lot of really pretty pieces of wood grain in here, but I decided to use this one because it had the tree look. But see, here's some of the ones in this, and this is the back of that piece. And there you go, some pretty pieces. So let's start with that piece and actually adhere it to this section. See, we have the 2 folds here. This is the 1/2 inch lip at the top. We're going to adhere this to this top piece up here. And when you put your adhesive on it, make sure you put it all over the back, because we're going to be cutting it out with a die. And it cuts in the middle and sides and everywhere, so you want to make sure that all your pieces are going to be sticking down when you cut them out and not flopping about. Alright, there's that piece. Now, the die that, well, all of the dies we're using today are actually from In the Grove. And it's this set here. And the first piece we're going to use is this one, which is the woods, or in our sample, it's this one right here. So we're going to cut our trees out first, and there's going to be a little noise and all going on with the Big Shot, but I wanted to show you how to do this. So let me bring my Big Shot over. Actually, it's not the Big Shot anymore, it's the Stampin' Up! Cut and Emboss machine. And one day I'll get used to saying that. Okay, so here's this piece is on here, and I've got this centered right in the middle. Now, if you can angle it just a little bit, these dies go in easier, but you don't want to bend your cardstock there. Now, this is going to be a little awkward from this angle for me, but we'll do it. Make sure your plates are lined up. So let's go through, and there's that first hump. Oh, we got over that. And I'm going to run it through about 3 or 4 times, because when you've got double paper, you need to get a good cut Sorry for the wiggling and the wobbling. All right, let me do one more just to make sure. Now your machine may not require you to do that many times, but mine does sometimes, and I wanted to get a good clean cut. So let's move that out of the way. Okay, take this piece off, and luckily hardly any of them stuck in my die that time. So we've got all these pieces we want to punch out. Let me see if how quickly I can get them out. Just bear with me. I think we're looking good here. Let's get all our trash out of the way. You know, this is a pretty good sized piece left, and you could probably find something good to do with it. I've kind of been letting my customers either take it with them if they wanted to, or I've been making a little pile of them. Alrighty, let's see. I think that looks good. We've got it. Okay, now the next step. Let me show you the front real quick. This is a piece of crumb cake, and I used the deckled. This is the largest of the deckled dies, and I cut it out of 4.5 by 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of paper, and I embossed it with the timber embossing folder, and then I just wrapped a piece of twine around it and glued that on the front. So this is the front of our card. Now if you notice, there's a longer and a shorter part. Shorter part is what we're going to work with this. Let me take this off. So here's our front. It's the normal 5.5 by 4 1/4. But when you open it up, you've got 5.5, but this is not 4 1/4. This is actually 3 3/4. All right, so here we've got this piece. Now, to glue this down, you're going to have to flip it towards you and put your glue on this section, all over this section. And it's better to put it here and not on the back of the other piece, because then you won't really quite know where to put it. So we've got our glue there. Take your end and you want to line it up right up to the score line. Now don't go on the score line, because if you do, your card's not going to want to fold up. But right up to that score line. Now here's the part you really need to pay attention. You see you've got 2 score lines down here. So you've got one here and one here. You want to let the back score line stay flat and just bring up the section with the DSP. See, the DSP is even with the bottom. And that's going to give you a little tab here at the top. And just put a little bit of glue. And if you want to use tear tape, use that. That would be fine too. So see, I've got my glue on that little 1/2 inch score line fold there. Put your card flat, bring this over, press down good. Hold it for a second, because you know how things takes a minute or two to stick. And then, ta-da, there we go. You see how it's got a little box look? Let me open it up, and we've got our little diorama look in here. Another one of those pieces I wanted to pull off. There we go. Alright, so now we have most of the front, and I'll show you the rest of the front while I'm looking at it here. Alright, I took the, what's it called, perennial lavender. Yes, perennial lavender paper. And I used this sheet right here, and I punched 3 with a heartfelt hexagon. I punched 3 out. And I have already stamped on them, but here's the 3. And I used this tree stamp. This is our coordinating stamp set that goes with the dies that we're using. And I used this tree to stamp on these 2 sections. So let's put those down real quick. We'll add to our pile of trash over here. All right, so this one I just kind of slipped up a little bit. And then I put this one on the other side. Even with that one, hopefully even. Now my middle one, since I have dimensionals on these pieces and they're kind of high, I doubled dimensional the middle section. So I have one on top of the other because I wanted it a little bit higher. And I just slipped it down under the twine a little bit and stuck that down right there. Now if you wanted Father's Day, just stamp your Happy Father's Day. I even had a customer today make hers graduation one, so we put Happy Graduation on hers. So there's our front. Easy peasy. Oh, and I did sponge, you can hardly see it, but I sponged a little bit of Mossy Meadow around here, and all of the ink that I'm using on the front and the back of this card is Mossy Meadow. In fact, let's talk about the back real quick. On the back, I cut a piece of Very Vanilla, and it was 5 1/4 by 4, and I cut it, I think this is like the next to the largest, this was the largest decal, and I cut this one with the next to the largest. And I stamped the mountains from In the Grove, these right here, because I got to thinking about this card. It's like, well, you know, there's really nowhere to sign it. So we needed to put this piece on the back so it'd have a place for our signature. Let me flip this over. So this goes right up here on the top part. Of course, you'll have a little line there where your cards meet, but that's okay. All right, so we've got our front, we've got our back. Now, you say, what in the world do we do to this inside? That's what we're going to work on now. And I meant to bring a piece of scrap paper over here. So I'm just going to use the scrap paper. All right, so our inside piece is actually a piece of basic white, and it is 5 1/2 by 3 5/8. Let's take this off. Now, we've got to make our sunset look, and I started with crushed curry, and I just put a little re-inker on a block. The thing about putting this ink on is we're going to have trees on the bottom, so you don't have to worry too much about the bottom, but you still want to get some ink on there. Make sure I get plenty. The crushed curry takes a little bit more than the other colors. And you just start swiping. Like I said, the bottom doesn't have to be that dark, unless you kind of want to make it a little bit darker as you go up. Now another hint, keep it moving, because if you stop, you'll get something like that, and it's hard to get that out. Since that's going to be behind the trees, I didn't mind showing you that. And I like to, up here, kind of do a little swirly motion to keep it from looking like a flag when you get all your colors on there. And this color needs to go up a good half of the card, because when we put our trees and our mountain on there, it will cover all that up. All right, so that was our crushed curry layer. Now I added a pumpkin pie layer. It's our next color up. And let's put some of it. So you just kind of want to swipe across here with it. But again, a little swirling, so you won't have that stripy look. And let's make it a little darker. Okay, there we go. Now we have one more layer, and that is our dark sky, and it is Blueberry Bushel. And it doesn't take a whole lot of this one because this color is pretty dark. So we've got some of that on there. Let's pick it up with our dauber and just start swiping across up here. You want to kind of bring it down into the orange a little bit. Looks like I'm going to have to get a little bit more blue. See if you do a little swirling, and you can bring the blue down just a little bit, maybe into the orange, just to give it a little blending of the colors there. All right, so basically that's it. I think I might do a little blue in here just to break it up some. Okay, that is our background. Isn't that nice? Isn't that pretty? And it was so easy. Now, what did we add to this? Here is, I can get this out of the way. Here are our trees, and they're cut from Mossy Meadow, and this piece is 5.5 by 1 1/4, and the other piece is 5.5 by 1 1/2. I made it a little bit deeper. And they're cut with this die from the In the Grove dies. And what I did, since the die is only this long, which doesn't go all the way to the end, I just took my scissors and just snipped this off up to there, and snip this one off up to the trees. And I did the same thing with this one. And this side. Okay, now my middle part happened to fall out when I cut these. Now to give these some dimension and not be flat, I got one of our thick strips. These are our thick strips that we sell in our catalog, and I put one on the back piece down at the bottom, just like that. Let's get it on the paper. Here we go, like that. And you want to keep it close to the bottom, because if you don't, these little holes in the trees right here, that white will show through. You line up the bottom of the trees and just stick it together like that. So see, now my trees have some depth and dimension. Hope you can see that. This piece now we're going to glue right flat down the bottom. Now I don't want to put my glue behind these trees, because I've got to slip my mountains in there. And actually you could put this on dimensionals instead of gluing if you wanted to. Alright, so that goes in there. Alright, now let's add some mountains. Now the mountains were cut out of crumb cake with this die from the In the Grove. And I sponged a little crumb cake on the top of my mountains just to give them some dimension and not look so one-colored and flat. And we're going to pop those, our mountains, right here behind our trees. And you want to slip it down far enough if you can so that your mountains kind of go off right there. You don't really want that point showing. Now we have a sun, and I cut it out of, this is crushed curry. And it's the die circle, the circle die from Spotlight on Nature. And it's this small one right here. And then I took some Poppy Parade and just kind of swirled it around on it to give it a little bit of red sunset look. So let's put it, now one thing we found out, you don't need to put it over here, because if you do, it will be behind your trees. So you want to put it more in the center, like in this area. Okay, now let's put it in our card, and you ask, how do we do that? This actually just slips in, and I'm just going to put a little glue on the back in some places, just enough to hold it down when it gets in there. And if you'll use your fingers to kind of hold the trees up, it'll just slide right in there. See, there we go. And you want to kind of get it even and hold it down. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold it down like this so it'll stick down in there. And while that's setting, I'll show you the last step, which was our sentiment at the bottom. And I used Hope Your Day is Full of Adventure. I thought, and that's from Pedal to the Metal. And it actually is a retired one. I have little green marks on my one that are retired, but I found this one. And I hung onto this one because I have grandsons, and I thought this might come in handy one day with the grandsons. And then I just punched a piece of crumb cake out with the word window, which also is retired, but I'm sure you have something that would be very similar, and stamped it in Mossy Meadow. So look at here, here's our card. See how pretty that is? Isn't that a beautiful sunset? And then I just take my little sentiment here, and I like to wait and put it on after I've put that piece in there, because then you're not sure where to put it. So you want to put it a little bit high, say right in that area. And there you go. And that's our card. That really wasn't that bad, was it? I think it's a fun card, and it's really beautiful. And then we've got our back area that we can write a little note and sign it. So I hope you like this card, and I hope you'll give it a shot. See if you can make it. It's really not that hard. Please like my video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that. If you need a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And if you'd love to be on my team, I'd love to have you as a team member. So until next time, happy crafting.